Now let's connect to the Modicon Edge I/O NTS island and do some basic configuration. The network interface module's IP address may be automatically assigned using a DHCP server with both rotary switches on the front panel in the 0 position, or the DHCP name can be set with the rotary switches, but more likely you'll want to set an IP address in the Edge Configurator tool. To do this, set the 1 switch on the NIM's front panel to the stored position and leave the 10 switch at 0. Then power cycle the NIM. The unit will start up with its default IP address. Here's how to determine the default IP address. A default IP address for Edge always starts with 10.10. So have a look at the last 2 octets of the MAC address, which is printed in gray text on the NIM's front panel. In my case, it's 07D6. Converting those hexadecimal numbers to decimal, we get 07 and 214. So that means the full default address of my NIM is 10.10.7.214. For ease of use, you can connect your computer to the NIM's front panel USB-C port for local configuration and diagnostics. Its default IP address for USB is 192.168.200.1. The USB port appears in your computer's network connections as Remote NDIS Compatible Device. This is a secure connection, so you need to type HTTPS before the IP address, or the request will be ignored. If you misplace your login credentials or don't know the IP address, you can reset or factory boot your NIM. First, remove power from the island. Then, to remove the NIM from its base, press the little green button on its top, labeled 1 in this image, while rotating the top away from the base. On the back, you'll see the cybersecurity rotary switch, item 3 in this image. Set this so the arrow points up, then reinstall the NIM and reapply power. After about 30 seconds, remove power, pull the NIM off its base, and set the rotary switch back to pointing down or to the left. Finally, reinsert the NIM in its base and apply power to the island. Now that you know the default IP address of your NIM, open the Edge Configurator software. You might prefer to use the web-based version, which has an almost identical interface to the software version, but be aware, however, that to get a newer version of it, you'll need to upgrade the NIM's firmware. You can choose to connect your laptop to the network module with either an Ethernet or USB cable. For now, I'll connect using USB. After opening the Edge Configurator, you can either click the Connect to a Network Interface Module button to go online with the NIM and read its current configuration, or you can click the Yes, Start Offline button. That's useful if you don't yet have the Edge Island hardware. In that case, you can add modules into the configurator, make any required changes, and save the configuration. Then when you do have your island hardware, you can go online and write the configuration to it. In this case, I'll click Connect to the Network Interface Module. On the next page, enter the default IP address of your NIM. As I'm connecting with USB this time, I'll enter 192.168.200.1. I do not need or want the HTTPS part because I'm using the software rather than the web tool. Now I'll enter the default username and password, which happens to be 8 uppercase A's in a row, and then click Login. Next, we're prompted to change the default password. After creating and confirming a new password, now we can see the File page with several optional activities. With an Edge I/O island physically assembled, the NIM will auto-detect all the connected modules when it powers up. So now to read the current configuration into the software, click the Scan and Create Configuration button. After this, you're prompted for a project name. Next, the island management page is displayed. Click the right arrow beside the NEC 1200 network module. This expands the island configuration, and now you can see all of the detected modules. Clicking on any module displays its configuration parameters. You can then go in and edit any parameters that need to be changed. You can see here in the NIMS parameters that you can change the Ethernet IP address or the USB IP address. You can also set an NTP primary server address. Also useful on this page is the communication hold-up time. By default, it's set to 1000 milliseconds, or 1 second. This means the NIM needs to be polled at least once per second. This could be changed for slow communication channels. But one of the most important settings is found by selecting Island Setup. Then on the Network Interface page, we need to click Edit Settings to allow changes on this page. And we need to enable Modbus TCP server mode, then apply changes. This allows the NIM to respond to Modbus TCP polls on its LAN ports. Back on the Island Management page, I'll select the 4-channel analog input module and open its channel 0. The mode right now is set to a plus or minus 10 volt range. My simulator board outputs 0 to 5 volts, so I'll change it to that. The range max and min numbers allow scaling of the 16-bit integer value the SCADAPack will see. You can scale these values either here or in the RTU. I've changed the minimum value to 0 so the RTU will see a range of 0 to 10,000. Then I'll make the same changes for the other 3 channels. Now I'll select the 4-channel analog output module and expand its channel 0. Here we can see that again the range mode is plus or minus 10 volts. I'll change this to a more standard 0 to 20 milliamps, and I'm going to set the range minimum again to 0. Again, you could do scaling of the analog outputs either in the SCADAPack object configuration or here. Now I'll make the same changes in the other 3 output channels. My digital input module doesn't require any changes, so I'll select the digital output module and expand channel 0. Here you can see that either a specific fallback value can be configured or the current value can be maintained. This comes into play if the NIM doesn't hear from the RTU within the communication hold-up time. I'll leave this at fallback to 0 for this demonstration. Now that I've made all the edits to the island configuration that I need to, I'll click the Save button. Next, I'll prepare the file for downloading to the island by clicking the Build Configuration button. And finally, I'll click the Download Configuration to NIM button. So now, this island has been configured. But wait, how do we know which Modbus addresses to access from the SCADAPack? Well, these are listed on the Island Management page. Select the NEC 1200 NIM, then scroll down to the Memory Mapping area. The Details area at the bottom of the page breaks out exactly what data is where, sorted into inputs and outputs. You'll see that more than just the live values are available. You can access the island status, channel health, and more. The analog values are all in 2-byte words, but to access the digital points or other items, you can parse them out into bits and bytes. Scrolling back up to the summary area, you can see that inputs start at register 5391 for a length of 12 words, and outputs start at register 0 for a length of 7 words. These are easily converted to the Modbus register numbers we know by adding 40,001 to each. So the first input is stored at register 45392, and the first output at register 40,001. When you're ready, please move on to the third and final video in this series.